Good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss about the important hematological condition, that is aplastic anemia. Myself, Dr. S.K. Sutkar, Department of Pathology. In this condition, basically, there is a feature of pancytopenia in which all the cell counts basically they are reduced or decreased, and the diagnosis is basically made by the study of peripheral smear as well as the bone marrow examination. So we will discuss about this. If we go through the epidemiology of this condition, basically the incidence is around 2 cases per million is seen, and there is a bimodal age distribution basically occurs in between the 20 to 30 years of age and over 60 year of age. The survival is better at younger age, so this is very important point. So this is few epidemiological features. Before going to the aplastic anemia, let us see the normal bone marrow structures and related cells. As we know that in the bone marrow there are hematopoietic stem cells which basically develops from the multipotent or pluripotent stem cells, and these are basically converted into lymphoid progenitor cells and the myeloid progenitor cells. So from the lymphoid progenitor cells there is a development of T cells, B cells and natural killer cells, and from the myeloid progenitor we will have the development of RBCs, WBCs and the platelets. Apart from this, in the marrow there are supporting cell as well, and these supporting cells basically consist of reticulum cells, fat cells and some other stromal cells are also there, fibrocytes or fibroblast. So these will make the environment for the proliferation of the hematopoietic stem cells. So if you go through the counts, basically in the peripheral blood we will have the WBC, RBC and the platelets. The normal count of WBC is around 4000 to 11,000 per cubic mm, and whenever these counts are reduced, this condition is called as leukopenia, and when their counts are increased, then this is called as leukocytosis. So this is very important term in relation to the aplastic anemia, leukopenia, where the counts are decreased. And in aplastic anemia more specifically there is a decrease in the neutrophil counts. The second one is the RBC, and their total number counts basically range from 4.5 to 5.5 millions, and whenever there is a reduced count of RBC as well as decreased level of hemoglobin, that condition is called as anemia. And whenever these RBC count they are increased, then it is called as polycythemia. Similarly, the platelets, these are the cytoplasmic fragments of the megakaryocytes, and these appears as a dots in the peripheral smears, and normally the count of the platelets are 1.5 lakhs to 4 lakhs, and whenever their counts are decreased, this is called as thrombocytopenia, and counts whenever they are increased, then it is called as thrombocytosis. So this is the normal cell counts in the blood. Now coming to the definition of the aplastic anemia, so it is basically a syndrome. A syndrome means it is a bunch of diseases and or bunch of problems that constitute the syndrome. So it is not a single disease, it is a group of problems. So syndrome of chronic primary hemopoietic failure. So there is a failure of hemopoietic cell to develop into mature cells, and that result in the pancytopenia. So this is a very important clinical finding which basically we will see under the microscope, the pancytopenia, features of pancytopenia in which all the counts they are basically reduced. So the patient will have the anemia along with the neutropenia and thrombocytopenia. As we have discussed in the previous slide, the anemia, whenever there is a decreased in the counts of RBC as well as decrease in the hemoglobin, then it is called as anemia. In leukopenia, when the counts is less than 4000 cubic millimeter, less than 4000 cubic millimeter, and in thrombocytopenia less than 1.5 lakhs per cubic millimeter. So most of the time the mechanism which is behind the plastic anemia is the autoimmune mechanism is there. There is a formation of cell reactive T cells, and which can attack the stem cells, and majority of these stem cells, they are destroyed in the bone marrow. So in majority of cases the mechanism is related to autoimmunity, but in some cases there is a inherited as well as acquired causes are there which can also suppress the bone marrow. If we go through the causes of the pancytopenia, there are multiple causes of this bone marrow failure. uh, is one of the important cause, and we can see in the bone marrow failure there is aplastic anemia, and it may be due to inherited or due to viral or drugs. Apart from this, bone marrow infiltration can also result in pancytopenia, that is acute leukemia, myeloma, lymphoma, carcinomas, and hemophagocytic syndrome and myelodysplastic syndrome. These all can also result in the pancytopenia. Ineffective hematopoiesis is basically seen in megaloblastic anemia and acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. In this also we will see the features of pancytopenia. Apart from this, there is a peripheral pooling of or restriction of the cells, basically result due to hypersplenism and the SLE. So these are the causes of the pancytopenia, and one of the important causes is the aplastic anemia. So if we go through the etiology of the aplastic anemia, as we have discussed, there are acquired causes. So most of the time the causes, they are basically their etiology is unknown, and idiopathic, in this basically there is acquired stem cell defect and immune mediated destruction of the hemopoietic cells. Apart from this, there are certain chemical agents which can suppress the marrow. So dose related alkylating agent and antimetabolites, which are basically used in the chemotherapy for the various type of cancers, and benzene and chloramphenicol, inorganic arsenic. In these chemical agents, basically there is a dose related hyposuppression of the marrow. And another cause is the idiosyncratic drugs, in which they basically chloramphenicol, phenylbutazone, organic arsenicals, and carbamazepine, penicillamine, gold salts, and in all these basically can also result in the suppression of the bone marrow. Apart from this, there are physical agents such as uh, exposure to the radiation, and multiple time when you have the exposure to the radiation, especially in the CT scan, that can also lead to the suppression in the marrow. Apart from there is a presence of viral infection, especially the hepatitis, cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr virus, and the herpes zoster virus. These all virus can suppress the bone marrow. Apart from this, there is a inherited causes, in which we can see the Fanconi's anemia and telomerase defect. So we will discuss about this in further slides. So if we go through the etiology, as we have discussed, the main etiology is the basically exposure to the chemicals and drugs, especially chemicals or the drugs which are related to the cancer chemotherapy, and the uh, and benzene can cause the marrow suppression in dose related, and it is basically reversible type of marrow suppression, and most of the time the bone marrow will reverse back into normal functional state. Second is the idiosyncratic, in which the drugs basically chloramphenicol and gold salts normally they do not cause marrow suppression, but in some individuals they can cause the suppression of the marrow. As we have discussed, the whole body irradiation, especially in case of CT scan, can also basically suppress the bone marrow in dose related manner. Apart from this, there is inherited defects in basically seen in case of Fanconi's anemia, and there is a defect in the multi-protein complex that is required for the repair of the damaged DNA. And in this condition, basically, we will see the congenital anomalies, and hypoplasia of the kidney, spleen, and the bone is basically seen. Another is the inherited defect in the telomerase. Around 5 to 10% of cases of aplastic anemia, we can see there is a defect in the telomerase. So telomerase is basically required for the cellular immortality and limitless replication. So this partial defect in the telomerase basically uh, result in the premature basically destruction of the hemopoietic stem cells. So this is very important. These are the two important inherited condition in which we can see the aplastic anemia. Now, if coming to the pathogenesis, so there are two main etiological basically involved, and one is the intrinsic mechanism, another one is the extrinsic mechanism. In the intrinsic mechanism, we can see there is abnormalities in the stem cell itself, and in the extrinsic mechanism, there is a immune mediated suppression of the marrow progenitor cells. So stem cells that basically are first basically they are altered antigenically by exposure to the certain type of drugs or infections, and once they are basically antigenically they are altered, they will express new antigens, and these new antigen expressed stem cells basically they will mount a T cell response. So there are self reactive T cells, they are basically attack these new antigens, and they will destroy these stem cells, and that result in the marrow aplasia. On the other hand, when these antigenically stimulated stem cells they undergo certain change, and there is result in the reduced proliferative as well as differentiating capacity of these cells, and that also can cause the marrow suppression. So this is the pathogenesis. Here you can see in the diagram the stem cells whenever they exposed to the environmental insult, especially related to the viral exposure or certain type of drugs, they basically undergoes the they genetically basically they altered, and that alteration basically result in two ways, that is they can express the new antigens, and or they will have the reduced proliferative as well as the differentiating capacity, and these new antigens they they acquire, and they exposed to the self reactive T cells, they are generated, and they will try to destroy these hemopoietic cells, and that result in the marrow aplasia. So if we go through the clinical features, the basically the sign and symptoms they are unspecific, and basically they are related to the pancytopenia. That means the symptoms which basically occur due to the anemia, leukopenia, and thrombocytopenia. In the anemia, basically the patient will have the tiredness, drowsiness, pallor, and in leukopenia, whenever there is a leukopenia or neutropenia, the patient is more prone to have the infection and will develop the fever. And whenever their platelets counts are low, the patient will have the higher chances of bleeding, and they will develop the petechial spots in the skin. So these are the clinical features basically we will see in the aplastic anemia. So now coming to the morphology, so morphology basically we will see the important findings in the bone marrow, and the bone marrow is basically hypocellular, and basically it is divide of the hemopoietic cells, and most of the time there is increase in the fat cell, fibrous stroma, and the scattered lymphocyte and plasma cells, they basically increased. And most of the time whenever we used to aspirate the marrow, we will have a dry tab. Dry tab means we won't see any type of cellularity in the aspirate. So the diagnosis is basically made by the tryphin biopsy or marrow biopsies are more diagnostic in case of aplastic anemia. Now coming to the peripheral smear, in the peripheral smear we can see the RBC, they are reduced in number, as well as we can see the normocytic normochromic with round macrocytes are basically seen. So there is an increase in the MCV, and the RDW is basically remains normal. This is a very important finding. So the MCV will go up to 100 femtoliters, and WBC we can see the leukopenia with relative lymphocytosis. So here you can see in the diagram a single lymphocyte is seen along with the RBCs. And platelets, there is a typical finding of thrombocytopenia we can see, and we can label this condition as pancytopenia. So pancytopenia is very important feature which can be observed in the peripheral smear. Now coming to the reticulocyte count, basically reticulocyte count is very important. It is like a window to the marrow. So by just knowing the reticulocyte count, we can see or we can know that the bone marrow is functional, hypofunctioning, or hyperfunctioning, or normofunctional. So that can easily appreciate. It is a very simple test in which we used to basically supravital stain, and these RBC, they are kept in the supravital stain for 30 minutes, and we used to prepare the smear, and we can see the reticulocytes in the smear. And these reticulocytes, they are basically the premature RBC which are having the nuclear remnant, and as you can see in the diagram, the dotted structures within the or reticular like structures which is basically seen in the RBC. Normally the counts is around 2% to 6%. That means 2 to 6 per 100 cells is the normal count of reticulocytes in adult. In aplastic anemia, the count usually fall less than 2% because of the separation of the marrow. The premature RBCs basically they are not formed, and that result in the decrease in the reticulocyte count. And whenever this reticulocyte count is decreased, basically we usually see that there is a suppression of the marrow. So reticulocytopenia and lack of splenomegaly is a very important rule for the diagnosis of the aplastic anemia. So this is very important. The reticulocytopenia means the reticulocyte count is less than 2%, and the patient will have will do not have the splenomegaly. Apart from this, by this reticulocyte count, we can also calculate the reticulocyte production index. And here this is a simple formula in which first we used to calculate the reticulocyte index. So in this the percent of reticulocyte is multiplied by the hematocrit of the patient, and it is divided by 0.45. And in order to get the reticulocyte production index, RPI index, basically the reticulocyte index divided by the maturation time, and normal RPI index in case of non-anemic patient is 1, and whenever the RPI index is less than 2, it is indicative of hypoproliferative marrow, and whenever it is more than 2, it is indicative of hyperproliferative marrow. So it can be detected by this method. Now coming to the bone marrow morphology, as we have discussed, there is a suppression of these hemopoietic cells, and a lot of fat cells they are increased, So the cellularity is basically the bone marrow is hypocellular with more number of fat cells. You can easily appreciate on the uh, section. And myeloid ethioid ratio is basically suppressed, erythropoiesis is basically suppressed, myelopoiesis is suppressed, and megakaryopoiesis is also suppressed. And we will see there is a increase in the counts of lymphocytes as well as the plasma cells count, they are increased. And we will report this as a hypoplastic marrow or aplastic marrow. This aplastic anemia should be differentiated from the other condition, especially the PNH. So more than 50% of the patient with the aplastic anemia may have a PNH cell population. So in the PNH, basically there is a defect in the GPI linked protein CD55 and CD59. So and the patient will have paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria. The patient basically develops hemoglobinuria in the night due to the increase in the acidity, uh, and there is a defect in the PIG-A gene mutation is very important. And there is a probability of the patient with the aplastic anemia develops PNH is around 10 to 20%. And we can make the diagnosis of this condition by using the flow cytometry and HAM test. So this condition must be differentiated from the aplastic anemia. Apart from this, there is the marrow suppression is also seen in the red cell aplasia. So there are three main causes of red cell aplasia in children. The congenital red cell aplasia basically seen in the diamond black pans anemia, and transient erythroblastopenia of the childhood, and parvovirus V19 infection only causes the red cell aplasia in the children with inherited hemolytic anemias and not in the healthy children. So these are the few causes of the hypoplastic anemia. Now coming to the diamond black fan syndrome, in which there is a congenital pure red cell aplasia, and it is a dominant autosomal dominant as well as recessive sporadic, may present as uh, autosomal dominant or autosomal recessive or sporadic, or familial case is seen around 15% of cases, and 90% is basically diagnosed in the first year of the life. And there is an intrinsic defect in the RBC, and that lead to early apoptosis of the premature cells. And the patient will have the macrocytic anemia, reticulocytopenia, absence of the RBC precursor in otherwise normocellular bone marrow. So these are the findings which we can see in the diamond black fan syndrome. Apart from this, there is another condition is called Fanconi's anemia, and it is autosomal recessive disorder, and this basically seen between the age of 5 to 10 years. And there is a absent thumbs, absent radius, and microcephaly, renal anomalies, as well as short stature, and there are capsulate spots, skin pigmentation are most common finding. And material regurgitation is also seen in 10% of cases, and high risk of the transfusion to the acute myeloid leukemia or myelodysplasia, and oral cancers, esophageal cancer and liver cancer are also seen in this condition. Now we go through the management of this condition. Basically the infusion of anti-thymocyte globin or ATG result in the 50 to 60% of recovery is seen. And neutropenia and infection, they are treated with the granulocyte colony stimulating factors or growth factors. And apart from this, we can also use the steroids with congenital pure red cell aplasia, and the androgens, they are also used in this in the management of the aplastic anemia. And lastly, basically the prognosis is very variable, and most of the time the patient require the bone marrow transplantation, and it is the treatment of choice with availability of the suitable donors. and it provides 5-year survival for over more than 75% of the cases. And the older patient or those without suitable donors often respond well to the immunosuppressive therapy. So this is how we can manage this condition. So bone marrow transplantation is one of the important step. So this is all about the aplastic anemia and how we can diagnose it, and what are the clinical features, and how it should be differentiated from the other conditions. And I hope this video will be useful for you. Thank you very much for watching this.